What is up, everybody? Pappy here, and today I wanted to talk about the second darkness subclass. Now, I'm not going to go into too many facts and stuff about this. It's more of a speculation, kind of theory type video. So, the rumors that we've heard through leaks and other kinds of stuff, we've read about Strand, the flow of life and death, strings of fate, vapor, corruption, traversal, movement, grappling hook. These are some rumors and some facts all kind of mixed into each other, and we don't really know exactly what it's going to be like, but I won't go into necessarily the theory part of this, but what I am going to go into is what I think our verbs will be, what our supers will be, and just how maybe this enhanced movement is going to work with a grappling hook. So first off, we'll just get the grappling hook out of the way. It could be, what if we had a really bad double jump on all of our classes, but we can also use the grappling hook, and it would kind of change up how we move around the map, and it would have to recharge just like our jump would, or maybe a third ability kind of thing. The hook could also be used to grab lighter enemies and pull them towards you, or maybe even players. On heavier enemies, bigger enemies, or maybe a player using their super or something like that, or maybe if their resilience is high enough. I don't know exactly how you could do this, but you would pull yourself towards them because they're heavier and stronger than you. Then maybe also you could use the grappling hook to pick up ammo or orbs of power. I think that would be a really cool way to make it more useful than just jumping. We know the classes will be based around vapor, corruption kind of stuff because of Osteostriga, Thorn, those Warlock gauntlets that do that corruption effect. There's a lot of stuff in the game that already points to this, and a lot of it is really, really heavily hive based. So I think maybe our second darkness subclass could be taught to us by maybe Savathun, or some other people talk about that the potentialness for Savathun to teach us something involving hive magic. And hive magic is somewhat rooted in darkness, so it wouldn't be too far of a stretch to learn the second darkness subclass from a hive, and preferably someone that was incredibly knowledgeable on the topic anyway. So it would kind of tie into Lightfall, because not only are we probably going to lose in Lightfall, but this could be the fall of light, where we just kind of give up on light and we take even more side of darkness, similar how we did in Beyond Light. We went beyond the light and learned darkness abilities, and maybe this will be an extension of that. What I think our verbs will be, I'm going to start with the bad ones that we will use for on our enemies. Bind, which could be a combination of slowing and suppressing the target. Suppressing may also already slow the target, I'm not entirely sure. But bind could be a combination of slow and suppress, like a concuss, blinding, suppressing kind of thing. Maybe it wouldn't blind them, because I feel like if you blind, slow, and suppress a target, that's a bit much. So I was thinking maybe it would just be slow and suppress. You wouldn't blind them or concuss them or anything like that. That would just be harder for them to move. Maybe reloads are slower, movement is slower, jumping. Maybe you can't jump, maybe you can only jump a little bit. Double jumps canceled or something. I don't know how exactly that would work. But suppressed, you wouldn't be able to use your abilities or your super or anything. But the thing being, instead of it being like suppression, like the suppression grenades and suppression abilities, this would be, because those can last a little long, and the slow by itself lasts a little long. So I say add both effects, slow and suppress, but it doesn't do it for as long, like it's a shorter time limit, or maybe you have to prep for it before you can even bind somebody, and just have it last the same length as the other effects, but maybe you have to charge up this ability somehow. The second verb would be corruption, or just corrupt, It would be damage over time, similar to how the burn in 3.0 solar would be, but instead it would do a little less damage, and it could kill the target and then spread to other targets. And in PvP, maybe it would do a lot less damage than Solar 3.0, but it actually could kill the enemy player, not just burn them to 1 HP, how it works now. The last one would be Curse. This one, it's a little bit far-fetched. They might implement this some way, but the way that I was thinking it would work could be a little bit different. So you could curse your opponent, and they could build up stacks of curse, maybe. Those stacks of curse could then be used for different things based on what class you're playing or what ability you're using to activate those curses. Or maybe if the player or the enemy or whatever gets enough curses on them, then a certain effect would happen. Now the only thing that came to mind was some form of corruption explosion combined with bind or just corruption or something once they build up enough curses. I don't really know. The other thing I thought of was maybe it doesn't do any of that and it just kills the enemy, like they just die, which could potentially be incredibly overpowered in all types of content if you found a way to abuse the curse mechanic. So I really don't think they would do that one. The good verbs that are going to affect the players, I was thinking maybe we could do Fate. And Fate would be kind of like a hive mind mentality, where if you're with a teammate or a friendly AI, I'll get into that in a second, but it's called Fate, a hive mind. You would get a team buff if you're with a friendly AI or you're with a actual other player. And what this would do would be increase maybe movement speed, damage, ability regeneration, all that kind of stuff, and it would really encourage team play. Or it would have something to do with this other good verb like soul stacks. So soul stacks or souls or whatever you want to call it, you gain these soul stacks on your character. It shows up on the left side of the screen. You got souls times 1, souls times 2, souls times 10, however many you can get to. And basically you could use these abilities to activate the soul stacks. The soul stacks would do different things. So you could consume soul stacks for, let's say you're playing Warlock. Warlock could have a soul stack ability that says when you cast your Rift, it summons either Shadow Thrall or regular Thrall or Curse Thrall or something based on how many soul stacks you had on your character. Soul stacks for hunters could be something like when they cast their class ability that it sends out chains of binding to cause that bind effect to nearby enemies or players. Kind of like how Tether would maybe work. And then Titan's soul stacks could maybe be consumed to gain ability energy back or something, or maybe the barricade is stronger, or I really don't know how Titans would work. I couldn't really think of anything for them. The last one I thought of was Vessel, where you absorb the soul stacks. So you kill an enemy or something, use an ability, you gain a soul stack. You then consume that soul stack and you become a vessel for that soul. And what this would do would just provide various buffs based on how you set up your perks. Or maybe how you use your super, or what class you're playing. I don't really know how exactly all that would work. I'm sure aspects and fragments would have a lot to do with it. But you could basically just assume the soul stacks, which is basically what the sword logic is. Or at least that's how the hive works. It's not necessarily the sword logic. Sword logic is just the strongest will survive and rule the universe in the end. But how hive work is the more they kill, the stronger they get. So you could basically do kind of what they're doing, but in the forms of soul stacks and becoming a vessel for those souls to provide a temporary boost to abilities or to make your super or abilities act differently. For supers, I like the supers a lot, and I feel like a lot of these actually have a really good chance of being in the game, just because they make so much sense. The verbs, I mean, obviously those may fluctuate and change significantly for all I know, but the verbs, that they may not use any of these verbs that I'm thinking of, especially they may not word them the same way. But the supers, I feel like they have a good chance of actually happening. So for Warlock, I thought of God Wave. The God Wave, if you don't know, in Hive history, the God Wave was what was going to kill all of the Hive back in the day. The God Wave was when all the planets and moons and stuff lined up in front or above or whatever. They lined up with the planet Fundament where the Hive were, which was basically just a gigantic water world. And when all the planets lined up, it pulled all the water up into the air in a giant syzygy. Then this would come down and perform a tidal wave that would just encapsulate the planet repeatedly, bouncing from one pole to the other until everything was dead because of how big of a tidal wave this was. Now, obviously, they made it through that using the worm gods and the darkness and everything else. But basically, the Warlock Ultimate could be summoning a smaller god wave, like the Warlock would just stick its arms out and then reach up into the air, and it would summon just a ball of poison up in the air, and then it would drop it back down on the ground, and a wave of like this corruption strand kind of vapor wave of poison of corruption would wash over the area in a radius or diameter or whatever around that Warlock, and it would poison everything. It would kill a lot of stuff. It'd be really cool looking, I feel like. For the Hunter, I thought of the Chains of Fate. This is a really popular one I feel like a lot of people have already thought of, but giving the Hunter some kind of chain based ultimate could be so cool for how it would look and how it would function. You could really see the Hunter, the Warlock, their ultimate is really based on the corruption part, and then the Hunters could really be based on the binding aspect or functionality verb. I don't know, I don't play Hunter, I don't play Warlock, but I feel like the Hunters could be definitely one of the coolest looking ones on how they perform all of their different attacks. And then lastly, for the Titan, I thought of the Sword Logic. This obviously makes the most sense out of all of these. The Titan could essentially summon some kind of guardian designed looking, but it would be like similar to like Crota's and maybe like a cleaner version. I don't know how exactly they would get it to look like. Sorry, I'm geeking out a little bit over here because I'm really excited for this. But basically, the Titan would summon Crota's or Oryx's sword, but maybe change the way it looks a little bit to match the Titan or the Guardian aesthetic a little bit more. So the sword logic for the Titan, their super would be you summon the sword and you can fight with it and stuff, but maybe it functions similar to how it's like a Dawn Blade, but you're on the ground, and it would be also like Well of Radiance, but for Titans. So what you could do, I feel like, is run around and fight with a sword, maybe use the heavy attack, and you would send out like a little energy slash, little corruption slash that would go across the screen, across the map or whatever, and deal damage. Maybe it would track just ever so slightly to help you hit your targets and stuff. It's like a basic little just melee super, but what you could do is in the middle of it you can hit your super buttons again maybe, and then you would slam your sword into the ground. It wouldn't stay there maybe for as long as Well of Radiance does, because it does have the ability to be used as like a movement melee super with projectiles included. So I feel like it would be more fair if the Titans didn't last as long or the buff wasn't as strong. So basically, I mean, I feel like what you could do is, or maybe like when you slam it into the ground, it just dissipates instantly, like it's gone. And so you have to be within that radius to get the buff. So you'd run around, you'd cut everything down, and if you had any of your super left, you would just slam it to the ground, provide a little last buff to your teammates that would last like 5-10 seconds or something. And then all the super would be gone after that. Anyway, guys, this is my thoughts on what the second Darkness subclass could be like. The verbs and the supers and just different, pieces of information involving it. I don't know whether or not any of it's going to come true, of course. It's just speculation. But it's been me, Pappy, and I will see y'all in the next video. Peace.